Adam Neely breaks down music and music theory for millions of viewers. And today we dive into his journey both as a musician and a content creator for any young person who is looking to get out there and get their music heard.
The reason why this works is because you have something to say. You have to have the faith that you will get better. Let me ask you this. When you wanted to grow up, did you want to be a social media content creator?
Hello everybody, we've got Adam Neely here.
What's up?
What a pleasant surprise. I didn't know I was going to get you as well as Sean, so this is a proper treat.
I don't play drums, so...
That is okay, because I think what I'm actually going to pick your brains about is actually more to do with starting out YouTube and doing obviously a musician beforehand, obviously. And then you make YouTube content and social media content about music.
Of course.
And all of a sudden you get a following from that.
Yeah.
And then that is a fantastic platform to then put your band upon. I'm in a similar position where I'm doing social media content and all of a sudden it becomes something you can utilize to audiences. So I'm wondering, how is it that you've approached that? Was it something that instantly sprung to mind?
Yeah, well, I will say that it hasn't been a one-to-one. The internet is a very different place from the real world, as much as we like to believe that it is a great place to connect with people, and it is. But to actually build out a live touring performance thing, and to tour and play, it even with the audience that we've developed through my YouTube channel and through Sean's YouTube channel, it's taken quite a bit of time to actually get to the point where we feel like we can play to larger audiences. I've talked to other YouTubers and I'm surprised that we haven't hung out or talked before.
I mean, I think I saw you walk past at NAMM or something.
Yeah, I know. It's
but I haven't really been doing this that long. I've only just started doing events, so.
Yeah, a very good friend, Mary Spender, who does this, she does YouTube and she also does live performance.
Yeah.
And talking to her, she's going through a lot of the same things where there isn't a one-to-one relationship. You have to really focus on building your touring and live performance artist apparatus as a separate thing entirely. YouTube works fantastic as a means of getting people interested.
Getting it in the door.
Exactly,
so
exactly. So that's been interesting because most people will hear of me because of my YouTube channel. But it's been cool over the past couple of years where more and more people are hearing of the band Sungazer because they heard us somewhere, which is very cool too.
So are you starting to get the kind of people actually know the band before they know your content or anything like that?
Yeah, which is weird for me, but it's cool. I really like that.
Quite nice to be honest. I mean, it's actually working. Thank God, and it's such a brand new way of gaining a following and popularity and kind of kickstarting a music career, so to speak, as a performer.
And I think for a lot of young people, they see that as the way now, too.
Interesting.
Which is, I'm not sure how to feel about that because, it's not necessarily how I started making music. I didn't make music for the internet. I'm an old millennial. I'm ancient. But, the way I first started thinking about it was oh, you got to get out there and you got to play. You got to play with a lot of people and go to school and then eventually a record deal? I don't know. So it's been interesting to see the shift of everything. But I think for any young person who is looking to get out there and get their music heard, it's a good first step. But it's not the final step. And take it from somebody like me who has done the social media thing and a lot of people have checked out my videos and that's awesome. But there is a lot of other stuff out there to do. And I will say that I'm very humbled and honored to be able to play and tour original jazz fusion music, which is so strange,
We have different styles of making content. So I've started actually from TikTok and doing daily posting. I don't know if you do daily posting.
No.
You smart man.
Okay, so I'm so old. I remember when daily posting on YouTube was a thing. In 2016, 2017, Casey Neistat released a lot of YouTube content where it was daily, and that was the whole thing. And it is not sustainable on any platform. I think maybe for short form it might be easier. I don't know how you do it.
It's batch recording.
Yeah.
It's because we're talking about specific topics, it can just reel over. But for something like you where you do video essay style stuff where it's so much more in depth and it takes so much more time to research, I'm guessing. And write. Do you do all the writing or do you have a team helping you now?
No, I do all the writing and also the editing for a lot of the essays now. There's been a cultural shift in the past 2 to 3 years on YouTube specifically where people want longer YouTube videos.
It's second monitor content. That's what I've heard, especially for Twitch and stuff like that.
Yeah,
People want something in the background.
Well, they want something, a video essay they could put on while they're watching or while they're cleaning dishes or whatever, which is a very different way of consuming content from your phone, which is much simpler, much more direct. There's something about having a YouTube video which is going on for like an hour and a half, and keeping your attention that whole time. A lot of my favorite YouTubers are not musicians. I really enjoy like YouTubers like Jacob Geller, who is a video essayist who makes video essays about video games. And it's very beautiful. I love that stuff. The wonderful Lindsay Ellis is another fantastic.
I love Lindsay Ellis.
She's incredible. She's kind of the OG of like that kind of.
I've watched her since the dawn of time, it feels like.
Have you checked out Defunct Lands? Do you know this one?
Yes! Yeah, I don't watch many of them because I find, aren't they like creepy edit kind of little bit?
No. It's actually not. It's like, it's like looking at old abandoned malls, but not in a creepy way, or like old abandoned theme parks, but not in a creepy way.
But why they've become abandoned, or what's the story behind it? Yes, I have seen them pop up.
There's one video that is an hour and a half long about standing in line at Disneyland. It's just a video essay about
I've seen that. Yes, it's amazing. It's really well done.
It's incredible. And so like a lot of the time I look to people like that for inspiration. I look to people who are making video essay content, and they will release a video once every 8 months. And they're fine.
They can do it.
They're fine. And I think, you know, for me, I've especially since I'm touring now, it's almost impossible to like keep up any kind of regularity. So I'm looking more towards that kind of thing, honestly.
And so is it mostly, obviously, your videos do very well, but is it also Patreon support and subscription kind of models?
Yeah, it's a combination of Patreon support, and then I also have sponsors that will do sponsored videos for longer form stuff. And between those two, it is sustainable as a way of not only for myself, but also it helps, it honestly helps put a little bit of a cushion on Sungazer's touring. It's very difficult to tour just in terms of how getting a balanced sheet to happen. A lot of early Sungazer's tours were helped funded by essentially my Patreon, which is like kind of a very cool way of thinking about it. But yeah, I mean, that's the way I've been doing it now, and I love doing it. I love researching, like going very deep on a topic, and trying to make the connections between certain things more interesting and illuminating.
Absolutely.
To people,
Yeah, well, that's what kind of just essays in general, where they're just taking a very narrow spectrum of a question and then really going in. Whereas I'm trying to like cover these kind of vaguely broad topics, but as fast as possible.
Which, I mean, there's an art and a craft to everything, because you really have to, for both, you have to really get into what is it that I am creating?
Yes.
The color, the light, the cadence, the delivery, the exact wording, like everything, and going so deep into it, and approaching social media content, I hate the word, but content, with the same degree of craft and dedication that you do for music.
Amen.
And you have to think of it as its own thing. Let me ask you this. When you wanted to grow up, did you want to be a social media content creator?
It wasn't what I thought about, but what I actually knew was I wanted to have an impact on a lot of people, and I knew I'd be somewhere in front of those people making that happen. I just didn't know what that looked like. And as a musician, the obvious answer is to go, well, I'm going to perform on stage.
Right.
And then this happened, and it's like, this is a really roundabout way to make that happen, but it utilizes more of my skills doing it.
I felt the exact same. It's like,
I
like musician and trying to develop a community or like steward something. And then it was cool that I got an audience, and it was cool that this roundabout way of thing happened. But it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to play bass. That's really all I wanted to do. And so now what I'm finding is I'm starting to find younger people who are wanting to be social media content creators, which is wild. And I'm a little, this is the old man in me. I'm a little like, maybe that's not great. Mostly because the reason why this works is because you have something to say. You have something, to give. Yeah, exactly. And the content is the mechanism. This is the thing that you are developing in the mechanism. Without the grounding, without that thing that you are saying, without the meat, it's very difficult to say like there's anything that's worthwhile to the social media content. So I think it's a very powerful tool, but it is giving me a little bit of a pause when I see people that say that they want to be a YouTuber.
A little bit of an ick. A little bit.
Yeah.
Like, same as people saying they want to be a celebrity, they want to be famous. It's asking the question why.
I think it's the same thing.
It is. I think it's almost exactly the same thing. But let me bring this round to actually some questions about music. Because all of these questions have been
music.
These have been for me, not for you, for me. So
what is this thing?
Yes. Well, I was going to say,
like,
I'm curious, as a bassist, obviously bass and drums are so interlocked.
Yes.
Have you just, when you sit, it's never been drawn, like you've never been drawn to drums at all?
It's daunting. Every time I sit down, I'm like, well, I know how it's supposed to sound.
Yeah.
It's like, it's supposed to sound good, but of course when I do it, it doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
You know, as a bass player, I'm always very drawn to the kick drum. Like, the kick drum is the basis for bassists.
Yes.
Like, a lot of that idea of like where the bass fits in relationship to the drums, but also the snare. Like, the snare is the other thing, because the bass plays with the kick drum, but the secret really is the snare is controlling. When I'm a bass player, I'm listening very carefully to how the snare accent might make me mute the bass. So there's the low end, and then as soon as the backbeat comes in, I'll make sure that I stop playing bass so that backbeat.
To really tighten it together. I was going to actually ask you in terms of how you approach, obviously you've got the basic concept of bass player follows kick drum and drummer follows bassist. It's quite simply that.
Of course.
But in terms of, you're obviously writing more intricate technical stuff. How do you expand on that to make it more interesting than just that? Because if you had a bassist who was just following that all the time, you get some just quite basic stuff.
I mean, there's so many ways of doing that. I think low and high very frequently, because of course, you know, there really is nothing like locking in with a good drummer, and I know you know the feeling of locking with a good bassist. It's just like, you're right there. But concepts of low and high are very important. I think about filling at the ends of phrases, and that's a big thing, of course, that drummers do. I often don't fill at the ends of phrases, because I know that's where a drummer might do. I might stop. I might just stop playing, so that when the bass comes back in on the downbeat with the crash, that ends up feeling a lot more like, we're here. This is a maybe more advanced. I'll fill in the middle of phrases, because I know that's where a drummer might not naturally fill. And if they are filling in the middle of a phrase,
where are you gonna go?
I don't know. Like,
well, it's more also with bass. It is so much the foundation of everything, and you do have access to that higher rail. But like that lower frequency realm really needs to be there as a foundation. So I imagine as a bassist, as a non-bassist, that's quite an interesting switch up of way of thinking. There's, like you say, drummers, we're going, okay, we're doing this, and then we fill at the end, and then we do this.
Yeah, I mean, like, the bass is such an interesting instrument. I enjoy the bass a lot.
Not biased at all.
Sorry?
Not biased.
Not biased.
Not one bit.
Not biased at all.
No. As a bassist, what is it you look for in a drummer? Like, as a new drummer, what is it you want to develop for a bassist to make their life easier?
So, consistency is very important for everybody. And I speak this for bass players, too. Being able to hold down something very consistently, very evenly, and feel calm and collected as you do it. You know, I think about playing to the song. I think, for me, it's very important to play with a drummer who knows when to play hi-hat versus ride. Like, that's everything, honestly. And it seems strange, because as a bass player, it doesn't change that much of what we're doing. But what it does do is it gives me information on, well, I guess it tells you the story of the song. When you're on the hi-hat, when you're on the ride, when you're crashing, etc.
It gives you a sense of the structure of where you're going, and and intensity, and it's just a different voice, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, the drums are so amazing, not just because of the drum, like the beat and everything, but orchestrationally, you can tell such a important story of how the song goes and the shape of the music. And to me, that's very important in a drummer, is they know how to play to the song.
And also listen.
Yeah. Of course.
I mean, any music, this is every musician, obviously.
Yeah.
But listening to the other people and judging what you play on how it's going, and staying in touch with what the performance is doing, where it's going volume-wise, just feel-wise and all that. And obviously for a new drummer, feel is a bit of a weird thing to try and bridge when you're just trying to get two and four together.
You're just trying to do that, And, you know, it will come with any musical instrument. you have to have the faith that you will get better, the faith that things will be easier in the future. Because of course, like I know I can't do this stuff, but having the experience of being a bass player and learning how to play bass, I know that the first step to being good is being bad at something. So you need to be bad for a little bit, but having faith that it will come together. I really love when drummers play to the room, like what room you're in. That's an important thing too. When you're in a big open field where there's no like reverberance coming off of the walls, smash to your heart's content. When you're in a reverberant room, knowing how the decay of the cymbals work with the reverb of the room is important. And a very good drummer will adjust, and you really feel it. You really get the sense of the musicianship when they're playing to the room.
Would you see it as crucial that people play with other musicians?
Yes. Playing with other musicians is the most important thing because you learn a lot about yourself and how you react to change through another person's musical voice. Because you might not know what somebody is going to do, and it's that reaction. Like if you play a crazy drum fill that I've never heard of before, I learn a lot about myself and how I can interact with another person. That's a very beautiful thing to see different musicians interact and learn about each other and ourselves through the choices that they make. You can't do that very easily in your own bedroom. It's an important first step, but I think jamming with other people is just like, that's really why I think music is so exciting. And that's like, you know, why I play with the musicians that I do. It's very exciting to, you know, play
how
with
do
them.
you recommend for people, a big question for people is how do I play with other people? How do I approach it? How do I make that happen? So jam nights? How else would you recommend people get
I think going to shows is a great way of meeting people because chances are if you go to a show for a band that you like, there are going to be other musicians at that show or other people who are interested in making music at that show, and you can talk to people and then get their numbers and then say like, hey, maybe we can jam sometime. Like I think going to concerts, going to shows is one of the best ways of meeting people because that's obviously the hardest part. You can always meet like-minded musicians, like-minded people at a show. It's sometimes hard because, you know, if you're introverted, that might be a difficult
struggle.
It's always a struggle. I'm not the most like extroverted person, so I definitely understand that.
It's funny, isn't it? Us content creators, usually are. You wouldn't think from my content either that I'm not really like that, but
it's because we don't have to talk to people. We just have to talk to that thing.
Yes, exactly, right? And it's easy. It's not real. You're not real.
Nobody over there is real.
No, including
Sean
you.
Isn't real.
Sean, you're not real. I don't see you right now.
Don't worry.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for watching this interview with the amazing Adam Neely. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you would like to see more interviews just like this one, but with some different people, then just keep tuned in with this channel. Also, if you'd like to come and say hi to me at Radar Festival this year, 2025, then you can, because we're going to be there. More information about that down below. Also, so if you want a free drum lesson with me, or you want to test out your single stroke speed against not only other people, myself, and also some very famous drummers, then you also can. I'll see you there. Big love. Mwah.